What up, everybody? It's your boy CG, back at you guys again with more crypto news and information. Now, before I get into the topic of today's video, could you guys do me a favor and hit that like button? It's the easiest way for you to show your support to the channel. It takes less than a second, and it puts me on the good side of the YouTube algorithms, so that my video will start to appear more in other places and I can grow the community. Now, getting into the topic. So, I understand that I do talk a lot about the crypto space and the developments that are happening in the space, and how the network effect is expanding every day as far as people starting to be onboarded or enterprises onboarding into the space or the market. Now, I don't really talk about how we're viewed, or the people who are investing into the crypto space are viewed. And I actually came across an article that I felt really touched me in a certain way, because it really put things into perspective as far as the people who are involved in the cryptocurrency market in its early phases, before things really start to get moving the way I believe they're going to start moving. So the title of this article was "The Next Generation of Digital Asset Investors," and they really touched on some good key points, namely the fact that there are lots of examples, as it states right here in this paragraph, from the 1980s to the 1990s, where you started seeing the bigger hedge funds that are around today start coming out in investment companies and them starting to get into these emerging markets. They got into new methods of investing, where it's like, whether it's like forex or commodities, whatever you could think of, they started it. They got into it first. And when you compare yourself to Mr. Paul Tudor, or George Soros, or like they say, a Jim Simmons, or even a Warren Buffett, or I don't want to say a Bill Gates, because Bill Gates was more so an innovator. But as far as, just being an investor, like, the bigger names today that got big off their so-called pristine or excellent trading methods. And let's be honest, let's call it what it is. These people were just people who invested at the right time and at the right place. They saw opportunity and they took it. Now, this is why nowadays I take it with a grain of salt when a lot of these older billionaires talk about their doubts in the digital asset market, simply because they are already billionaires, hundreds of millionaires, and they personally couldn't care less. When you have that much money, you really don't care, especially when it comes to something that is more speculative. You already know how much money you're making from the traditional marketplace, so it's not really a matter that you would concern yourself with. But now we are starting to see, in my personal opinion, the birth of the next set of billionaires and trillionaires of the future. We're starting to now see the Warren Buffetts of the future, the Soroses. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. It's just amazing that we are living in these times, and a lot of people don't really see themselves in this light. I'm not gonna say self-esteem, but it's always good to look at things from a different perspective. You could be the person that becomes the household name in the financial world 10 years from now, 15 years from now. A lot of people don't really look at it that way. They just see it as a quick buck. And to be honest with you, I believe that with these older billionaires and investors that have these accolades or this clout from investing early, in my personal opinion, they didn't see themselves that way either. They just saw themselves getting a quick buck, and it probably just happened the way in which they just exploded in, as far as popularity, and just their, how can I put this, their intuition kicking in. So I believe that a lot of people need to start looking at this differently. They're like, who knows, there are probably billionaires out there who have more money than the George Soroses or the Warren Buffetts, that haven't even made themselves known, and they're making money in the behind the scenes, in the shadows. And this digital asset revolution, in my personal opinion, is the same thing. You you should be looking at this as the future. You should be looking at this as the stock market when the stock market first came out. You should be looking at this as when gold first started getting openly traded. All these different things that happened before they became the huge $1 trillion assets that they are now, or market cap of the asset, whatever you want to say. So a lot of people are starting to see. There's actually a dude I listen to. His name is Cedric Dahl. He's a really cool dude. He's really insightful. His channel always brings me new things to think about. I like to think. I like to have things presented to me in a way in which I actually need to put one and one together, and it helps connect the dots. So, so Mr. Dahl always presents things in a manner in which you shouldn't just be investing into any and everything. You should be investing into things that make sense, things that also introduce a different type of math. Now, I'm not going to say I'm 100% invested that way, but a lot of my thinking comes from that perspective as far as protocols. And they actually talk about this in this article, and it's pretty cool that they actually do bring this up. The fact that these protocol tokens such as like Beam, Grin, um, anything that makes use of the Mimble Wimble protocol, Ethereum, Cardano, whatever you want to name that is building their own network of how can I put this, solutions, the network of solutions for old world problems. It's really cool to see them start bringing this up and how important that these particular advancements in the digital asset marketplace are the top of the top. These are the reasons why it exists. You know, we've seen how big it can get with coins like or projects like Chainlink, Ethereum, and I'm not a big Tron person, but let's even just say Tron. You know what I mean? The biggest one of all, Bitcoin, the biggest protocol of all, well, the most famous protocol of all. So, just being an investor in these emerging asset classes puts you in a position of you may very well be the how can I put this, the person that's giving out those speeches at large crowds, or people are paying $5 million to sit down and have a dinner with you to talk about their project and pitching it. Or you could very well be the person that's influencing the world around you simply because you were here first before a lot of others saw the value in the things that you were looking at. So this will be your boy CG, guys. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. Oh yeah, I have one more article to get into real quick. It's just dealing with Ethereum and Ethereum's projected launch date. Ethereum 2.0 is actually really in its final testing phases apparently, because a large portion of their manpower is simply being concentrated in solving and fixing bugs that are wrong with the protocol or the client. So they're looking at apparently like a June release time, like, and they're saying this hypothesized, so I just say speculating on a June release time for the whole thing to start being introduced to everybody, to the public. But don't count on it, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these things, especially when it comes to big names like Ethereum, we are going to have a lot of problems that come up, and loopholes that people may use to, finesse the system, whatever you want to say. But this will be your boy CG, everybody. Still, do me a favor and hit that like button once again. Have a great day. Peace. I'm out.